Hello and welcome to a surprise edition of Geek TV. We'd only just finished packing away our Peter Davison cardboard cutout when the biggest Doctor Who news of the year broke on Saturday evening. Yes, the rumours were true. Matt Smith is leaving Doctor Who. One man who's been crying over his toy TARDIS since the announcement was made is Digital Spy's #1 Doctor Who nerd, your friend and mine, Morgan Jeffrey. Say hello, Morgan.
Hello.
So Morgan, it's been a huge week of Doctor Who news. Are you still shocked? Are you still in denial? And were you surprised by the news?
I was a little surprised, but I wasn't hugely shocked because, as you mentioned, there were rumours flying about, for the past couple of months now, suggesting that Matt Smith might be on his way out. So when the news came, it was really just sort of confirming what we'd all suspected for a little while, but it's still a real shame, I think.
How do you think Matt will be remembered by Doctor Who fans? Do you think he'll be remembered sort of up there with Tom Baker, David Tennant as one of the best ever Doctors? Do you think he's in that sort of that group?
I think he'll be fondly remembered, yeah. I mean, you're always going to have your kind of your naysayers and your David Tennant fanatics who will never accept anyone else in the role. But I think generally Matt Smith has gone down really well with fans, and the kind of general reaction to the news that he was leaving seems to be, disappointment, people saying they'll miss him. So yeah, I think he'll be remembered as kind of a great lead for the show, and also someone who is a really good ambassador for the show and clearly, loved his job and loved the show.
Seems a bit early to be talking about replacements, but we have to, obviously. Who do you think are the serious contenders for the job of the Doctor?
Well, I mean, we did talk about this briefly a while back when the Matt Smith leaving rumours first kind of emerged, and at the time we were talking about Damien Maloney, who's the actor from Being Human. I basically said that he was my #1 choice for the role, and since then everyone's stolen my idea. Yeah. Basically, it's now all over the internet. He's all over, the bookies odds, but I still think Damien Maloney would be a top choice for Doctor Who. There's also Ben Daniels. He's kind of the bookies' favourite at the moment. He's an actor from Law and Order UK. He appeared in a couple of episodes of Merlin. I'm personally not sure if he's, the favourite. I think he could definitely do the role, but I don't think it's a done deal with Ben Daniels. There's also a couple of other actors that I think would be great. Toby Kebbell, who he mainly does film work. He was in Dead Man's Shoes, Rock and Roller, the Guy Ritchie film, but he also filmed an episode of Black Mirror. And then another actor from Black Mirror, actually, Daniel Rigby, who won a BAFTA for Eric and Ernie, the sort of Morecambe and Wise biopic. I also think he could sort of do something really new and interesting with it as well.
As ever, when a Doctor leaves Doctor Who, there is the usual debate. I mean, not even when a Doctor leaves Doctor Who, every sort of 6 months or a year, there is the usual debate about whether there should be a female Doctor, whether we could have a black Doctor. Do you think Doctor Who has a duty to do something different this time?
I don't think any show has a duty particularly. I basically think that, if a black actor auditions and is the best man for the role, then cast a black actor. I don't think it has really any bearing on anything at this point. I think it's slightly ludicrous that people are still talking about it as if it's something new. Like, just cast the best person for the role. In terms of a woman, I think that's a slightly different issue because that is something that would change the show, and it is something that you would have to address kind of within the storyline. A man changing from a woman is a big shift. And so I don't think it would damage the show necessarily. I think you could have the Doctor played by a woman, but it would definitely change the show more than just having a black actor playing the role.
That could be exciting though, for 50th
year. It definitely is. As I say, I don't think it would damage the show. I don't think it's a bad idea at all, but it's definitely something you'd have to, consider a lot and think of how it impacts the show before you do it.
Obviously heard some of your suggestions, Morgan, but out in the real world, outside of our little den of geek down here, there is a whole world of wacky and dreadful suggestions on the internet and in the tabloids about who could possibly play the new Doctor. Wanted to get some of your opinions on a few that I found online at bookmakers. I think you can get 500 to 1. You can get John Terry.
No acting experience necessary, clearly, the bookmakers think, to play the role of the Doctor. I mean, John Terry doesn't even need to be in Doctor Who. He could just run on at the end of an episode and claim he saved the day, and that would be fine.
I'm very impressed by that comment, Morgan.
Football knowledge.
I know you don't know anything about football, so I'm very impressed you did that gag.
Thank you.
Another suggestion, Lenny Henry.
Lenny Henry, sure. Why not? He did actually play the Doctor in a sketch, I think, in the 80s. So he's got more
experience.
More experience than John Terry, certainly. Why not?
Yeah, two people who I've heard constantly rumoured about Doctor Who, but would be absolutely ridiculous and awful. Stephen Fry, Sue Perkins, both very similar in their sort of sense of humour, but would completely make Doctor Who into an utterly ridiculous show.
I completely agree. I mean, Stephen Fry can act in his defence, but I really don't think he's the right guy for Doctor Who at this point. And Sue Perkins, yeah, again, I think people who are campaigning for a female Doctor, she's just someone who's very English and a bit quirky, so they think that's, the only credentials you need to play Doctor Who, and I don't think that's true.
I think Stephen Fry is a great man and a good actor, but he's the sort of person I think is suggested by people who haven't ever watched Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Would just think they know what it's about.
He'd be on the list with Paul Daniels and
Paul Daniels.
Paul Daniels is always in the tabloids. They always go Paul Daniels and Devin McGee for the Doctor and the Companion.
Blimey. Even more ridiculous than Paul Daniels, less likely than Paul Daniels, is Helen Mirren.
If they're going to cast a female Doctor, and if they want to go for someone slightly older, which again a lot of fans have campaigned for, I actually don't think Helen Mirren would be that bad. She certainly beats, John Terry or Lenny Henry.
Idris Elba. Now, this is a classic example of people who seem to think the new Doctors should be a black actor.
Yeah.
And the only black actor they can think of appears to be Idris Elba. I think, it'd be, it's just, why on earth would Idris Elba do it? He's too well known, surely, to be the Doctor.
And I just think, he'd be completely miscast as the Doctor. I think people campaigning for Idris Elba, their thinking doesn't go any further than, I like him on Luther, so he'd be good in Doctor Who. The reason he's good in Luther is because he's well cast in that role. He'd be completely wrong for Doctor Who, and he's a great actor and a really kind of charismatic, popular star. But that doesn't mean he's right for Doctor Who. You need to cast someone who's right for the part, not just someone we like.
And finally, some other suggestions which appear to be based on people with funny hair: Russell Brand, Jack Whitehall, and Bill Bailey.
Sure, well, big hair, big curly hair is another. You don't need acting experience. You just need to be English, a little bit eccentric, and with big hair. So on those grounds, line up Whitehall and Bailey. Great.
In the history of Doctor Who, they've never cast anyone who's been a big star beforehand.
No, I mean, they're usually strong character actors, but they've not had one defining role, because the Doctor is the defining role for many of these actors. You don't want someone from Harry Potter. You don't want someone like Hugh Laurie, who already brings so many associations with them. You kind of want kids and whoever's watching Doctor Who. You want them to accept them as the Doctor, and that's why you don't want Benedict Cumberbatch. You don't want Colin Morgan. I mean, maybe, previously they could have done the role and they would have been great, but you don't want Sherlock as Doctor Who. You don't want Merlin as Doctor Who. You want the Doctor to be the Doctor.
Couldn't have put it any better myself, Morgan. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for in this week's surprise edition of Geek TV, but we will be back later in the year to celebrate the show's 50th anniversary in style. Until then, Morgan's off to cry over his Matt Smith doll, and I'm off to take a call from my agent who says that an acting job has come up with someone called a Mr. S. Moffat, whoever that is. See you in November.